Stop the cap.
Yeah, this will be another Niggadamus stream of consciousness because somebody left a comment, and I think that they're one of the white nationalists that come over on my page. Sometimes I'm like, why do you guys come over here? Because I'm like, nah, shouldn't you be in your own little circles and your little white nationalist echo chambers? But I guess I got to give them some amount of credit because they're I guess the inquisitive type, like I am, like when I go into feminist spaces to understand what they're saying. If I'm going to actually structure an argument against their position, you need to know what's going on, or at least be open to um, unconventional ways of thinking or streams of thought. um, but anyway, the last two videos that I did that were over 2,000 got, I think, out of all my recent videos, they have the most amount of views. They're over like 4,000 right now, which is somewhat unusual for me. My video, because remember, I'm shadow banned. My video about the fall of men or the collapse of society or something like that. That video has 10,000 views. So apparently people like my more universal conversation about where I see things going. Um, and this will be somewhat tied to my last video, but just giving a little bit more detail based on this guy's comment about um family structure and mate selection. And like I said, I'm totally blown away at what the boomers have done, because boomers, I mean, boomers, most white boomers have white supremacist ideology. Most white boomers are the ones that you know they run around with the rhetoric of personal responsibility, and all that was directed at black people. The reason why black people are poor is because black people did it to themselves, and they're all lazy and they're not doing X, Y, and Z. And there's a lot of younger white people that bought into that. But now all that rhetoric is being used against millennials and zillennials. Right now you see how easy you slip into all of you all are lazy, even though we know that these companies and corporations ain't paying shit. And the way I look at society is, you know, I mean, it's like anything else. The whole system has to collapse before any real changes are made. That's the scary part. I don't have any sort of master plan, even for myself, other than strap the fuck up, you know, because especially as it pertains to white people, they will be out here blaming everybody else. The white nationalists will come out and they'll be blaming the black people and blaming the Mexicans and blaming, immigrants and Syrian refugees and everything else. They'll be blaming everybody, but the white bankers and the white people who control the corporations, they'll be blaming everybody but the people who look like them. I don't know how many times I gotta say it. You know, I, I mean, that's just how I see it. I see it as, the system is not going. It's going to have to break, and I mean break hard, break completely. And you're already starting to see this with people. I remember when somebody said, we live in a Renaissance economy, and I was like, what the heck is a Renaissance economy? Obviously, the whole gig economy thing. We know about that. People doing Uber and Lyft, and trying to get their social media account up. But I'm saying the part that blows me away is how the carrot has been destroyed. People talk about the American dream is dead. No, the carrot has been destroyed, and it flies in the face of all the rhetoric that you hear from boomers, the boomer talk. hard work and personal responsibility. All that is predicated on the idea that if you put in hard work and you're personally responsible, that there's actually a reward, a light at the end of the tunnel. And that light at the end of the tunnel, or that carrot, that reward, it's no longer there, and everybody can see it. And the boomers just want to sit around and they want to gaslight people like they can't see it. I mean, at every point has its breaking point. Like the idea that you can just have the cost of living go up into infinity, and then you keep the wages stagnant. Again, it's just what white people do. It's just like with slavery and reparations, right? Like they just keep kicking the can down the road, and then the problem gets worse. And then they end up with people who are not only unemployed, but they're unemployable because a subculture comes out of that. And then so anytime you want to go back and you say, okay, we got to fix this, it's too far gone. The problem is now you're going to have to uproot the subculture. And again, conservative boomer talk is no good for that, because what they do is they create the conditions that facilitate the subculture, and then say that the subculture is the nucleus, the point of conception, the origin of why those people are in the predicament that they're in. It's real slick what they do. Right? So I take the jobs away, I don't pay people shit, right? So then now people are existing in prolonged exposure to poverty. Kids are growing up in these unstable homes. The kids are now dysfunctional, right? And now I got a bunch of dysfunctional, kids that transition into young adolescents and adults, right? And then I'll say that, well, the reason why we're not hiring them is because they're dysfunctional. I'm like, you weren't hiring their father, and their father was a functional. You stopped doing the hiring when the father was looking for a job, which is why the kid grew up in poverty. You see what I'm saying? And people will sit there and they'll say, oh well, capitalism and trickle down economics, and companies, they gotta, cut cost, and that's how companies become profitable. And I get that to a degree. You want to talk about small business and everything. I totally get that. But when you start getting into these mega corporations and they got record profits and all that shit, and you got like the CEO and you got like 20 other people that have more money than they'll ever need in their entire life, and then you got the masses of people that are just without, and then you got people running around, with this sort of rhetoric about patriotism and what it is to be an American, and all this stuff that's all predicated on there actually being a stable middle class. And all you hear from the boomers is this rhetoric like somehow they're going to maintain all of that without actually having a middle class that's sustainable. And a lot of y'all white folks, you think it's about racism, and it's really about classism. And a lot of you all, you can't get that in your brain. You can't get that in your brain. In many regards, black people have adapted. They've adjusted, to poverty and the discrimination that we, faced: redlining, blockbusting, Jim Crow, eminent domain, urban renewal, convict leasing, debt peonage, COINTELPRO, racial housing covenants, right? All these things that negatively affected us, and that's where you get the subculture that is the African American community. Again, as I always say, America has the black people it deserves. America, it's like what I said about Gizmo and the fucking Gremlins. The Gremlins are niggas, and African Americans could have been Gizmo, right? But let's like reverse the Gizmo situation, because Gizmo was like, don't give them food, don't give them water, blah 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 blah. But like talking about real human beings, no, you gotta, give them the necessary tools so that they can actually function. If you take all that away, you get gremlins, you get niggas. And that's literally, what you see on the news and white folks bitching about Fox News and everything. I'm like, America created that. You know what I mean? It's like what I say about like when I see criminals, Pakistani criminals in the UK. We don't have Pakistani criminals in America. You know why? Because the way that Pakistanis and Asians are treated in the UK is totally different than how they're treated in the United States. Same culture, same flag, but yet if I go over to the UK, I see Pakistanis in the drug trade. I see Pakistanis in the prison industrial complex. Same thing if I go to Canada. If I go into Vancouver and all that shit, it ain't nothing but Asians that are doing the shootings and the gang violence and all this other stuff. There's nothing but them. Go and Google, crimes in Canada. It's Somalis, it's Pakistanis, it's Chinese people. In America, people be like, what? What? Those are our most well-behaved minorities, right? Yeah, because they're not treated the same way as African Americans. So the society itself, has an impact on that. Again, unless you want to give me some other explanation why you have, Pakistani, criminal activity in the UK, but you don't have it in the US. You won't find that shit. Only time you see a Pakistani in the news for some shit is if he got radicalized by Islam and then goes out there and does some wild shit. Like the hijackers of 9/11 and shit like that. That's the only time you really see them. Or if they go off and they do some sexual deviant shit. We got well, actually, he's not Pakistani, but he's still Desi. We got a Sikh, what was he, urgent care doctor in New Jersey, who, this motherfucker was over there, graping women, in his office. I didn't look at the details on the shit. They just keep showing this dude with a blue turban and in a blue, Corvette, like a C7 Corvette. And, like people are going crazy about it right now. But anyway, that's what's happening over here on the East Coast. But like even with the whole, like what the markets look like the dating markets look like now. I mean, you can't separate the dating markets from the work markets. And then, again, looking at, what was or what is traditionalism, right? So like you had feminism come through. Feminists, they want to argue about women's equality, this, that, and the third, even though there's a whole bunch of hypocrisy there where like I want to make the money, but I only want to date up, right? You got all that bullshit going on. But now, you have a situation where, again, you still have women wanting to engage in hypergamy, but then you have women, any woman that's above an 8 can go out here and show her body on OnlyFans. I just found out, there was a chick I was following on IG. I didn't even know that she was busting it wide open, because, she up there with the damn, what's that shit called? The Raptor F-150 truck. She got the Raptor F-150 truck. She got the, just anyway, white girl with a fat ass. I think it's Danny Coops, right, on Instagram. I think I posted her picture one time. I was like, it looks, what is in the water, right? But anyway, she busting it wide open, with her boyfriend or her husband or whatever, smashing it out on, whatever, OnlyFans. And, I found the shit because I started like going around. I was like, oh, that's what these women are doing. So they go and they post on Instagram a bunch of limited photos, and you just thinking the bitch looks good. Then, I started realizing like, wait, this is an advertisement for you to be redirected over to their OnlyFans, right? And then you got to pay all those monthly fees and shit like that. So I just went over to Reddit and typed in the name, and then a bunch of images came up. I was like, oh shit, she busting it wide open over here. And so, people want to talk about, you have the Christians will come through and talk about the moral debauchery and all this other stuff. And I'm like, all of this is rooted in the fact that, you have a system that is now completely broken. You have no real carrot. Right? The average worker is locked out of, having, even those tenets that, conservatives and the biblical, followers of Christianity will say that a man should have, and this is what defines a man. And then you got, you know, um, these women that are basically any woman above an eight, I mean, any woman above an eight should easily be able to make, well into six figures on social media just by busting it wide open, showing off her body. And I see like a lot of these guys, like even like Undead Chronic, he's always crying and bitching about, virgins and shit like that. And I'm like, and he's talking about what type of money he's potentially going to make, but hasn't made it. But anyway, I'm saying, you got these guys talking about, oh, there's no wifey material to marry, and these women are busting it open on Instagram and OnlyFans and whatnot, and they're 100% right. But I'm saying the women are busting it open on OnlyFans, like I said in my previous video, because we now have a society where they're not paying enough men to be the traditional, patriarchal man, right? By and large, to the point that white men are being affected, and you hear them bitching up a storm. Before it was just, oh, the black men, and you're the white man's bitch, and you all are marginalized by white men, and it's just a black problem. And now it's like it's spread beyond that, right? So now you got the white men, they're bitching because white women are busting it wide open on, social media, and they're getting more money than any like working white man could ever make. You got women making well beyond, I mean, even somebody saying, "Oh, I made $1 million last year." $1 million last year is $83,000 a month. That's what $1 million is. So when you hear about people making, oh, I make 2, 3, 4 million, you know what I mean? Like when Country Rain, when he said he was making something like, I forget, it was like 3 or 4 million a year. That was like he was making, I think it was like $300,000 a month. I don't know. Do the math on that. What is that? Let me type that in. Hold on. Oh, where's my? Do I got my damn? Let me see. 300,000 times 12 is $3.6 million. That's how much he was making a year. $3.6 million. And when you get numbers like that, right? Before, like the only people that were making that type of money were like actors, movie stars, freaking athletes, right? And that's athletes like from like the 90s on up. They were making like that type of money. But now you got anybody with a camera. You got the women, they busting it wide open. They can make, crazy money like that. You got people with antics and jokes and shit on social media. They making money like that. I mean, just look at like what's the chick's name? Bad Baddie. You know what I mean? And the type of money she made, not only from the OnlyFans that she's got, but then the music, the fucking Catch Me Outside, all that shit, all just no talent, no talent. Although I will say that her music, I thought it was catchy. I thought it was catchy. I know she didn't write her lyrics, but I'm saying, a lot of people can't even do that. So I'm like, I'll give her a little bit of credit on that. I can't say no talent at all, even though people will say cultural appropriation. I was like, she's in that Cardi B lane, in my opinion. But anyway, I'm just saying, overnight sensation, bam, it's just crazy money. Just shit is just retarded. And that never existed before. You know what I mean? If a man was a working man in the conventional idea in the system of quote unquote the patriarchy, men didn't have to contend with that. If you were a man and you went out here and you worked hard and bought a home and all that other shit, it was only like a handful of celebrities or like a woman who started a designer, a fashion designer company or something like that. Those are the only ones that was really fucking with you. A couple heiresses here and there, right? That's really all you had to, contend with. But now, now you got, a bitch that was blessed with looks, out there just, I mean, not just oh making the money that you're making working a 9 to 5. No, blowing past you times 10, times 50. And somehow men are still supposed to be motivated to go out there. Again, I mean, every pretty chick, every chick that you could think of that is above an 8, that where the average guy will say that's an attractive woman, could be making that type of money on social media. And then people will say, well, what about, the men are the ones that are the cause of this, and it's partially true, because you got to remember, like, again, going back to the fertility stats, what was it? Asian men are 35% of them are fathers. White men, it's 43%. Black men, it's 46%. And Hispanic men, it said 50%, but I know when you take out the immigrants, it's less than that. It's like 45%, anywhere from 45 to like 48% or something like that when it comes to Hispanic men. So all these guys, like if you take them all, they're all hovering, right around, 40, maybe 41, 42, somewhere in there. If you took the averages of all those, actually, you know what? Fuck it. Let me do the averages right here. So we got, what do we got? 46 plus 43 plus 35 plus, let's say Hispanic men. We'll go with Hispanic men are 45. Okay, divided by 4. So we get around 42. So I was writing what I was saying originally the first time. Okay, so we got 42, 43% of men are the men that actually get to go out here and procreate. And you got to think, like, it's always been that way, even though nobody's really realized that only, about 40% of men in society, 42% of men in society actually get to fucking procreate. And then so that's our starting point, which is only 40 something percent of men get to procreate. And then you throw in the OnlyFans, and you throw in the, companies don't want to pay wages because it's been it didn't happen overnight. It's been a long period of stagnant wages and the cost of everything going up. I said the same thing about the housing market. Look, I know everybody wants to talk free markets, but the way that people use houses as investment vehicles is the primary reason why this shit is a fucking problem. That cannot exist. You cannot have houses just go up into infinity with wages being stagnant and not matching that. So that the boomers, like, I bought this house, 50 years ago, and I'm just sitting on it, and it's now it's worth. I bought it for $50,000. Now it's worth $500,000, and then I get to cash out of the house and then move in, to friggin', I don't know, someplace in Miami in a little retirement community with a pool and shit, and just live down there and live off of that. Which means that somebody has to come through and actually buy the house at $500,000. Like, how many people can fucking do that? And people thought that like this model was gonna go forever. Like, if you look at it, the system has to crash, and it has to crash in multiple places. It has to crash in the housing market. It has to crash at the educational market. You got companies now saying, oh, we're not gonna, have people go and get a degree. All this bullshit, all this fluff, all this, go to college, get an education. And don't get me wrong, some fields you do need to have an education for. But I'm saying, go to college, and then the schools are like, oh, this money is, basically the banks are like, oh, this money is guaranteed by the government. So the schools are like, oh, well, we can increase our prices because the banks are going to lend it, and then we can make more money because schools are, a business, which, again, Finland has freaking banned that. You can't do that in Finland. Like, you can't have an institution or anything tied to education that costs money, right? But everybody wants to jump up and say, oh, that's socialism. We don't believe in socialism. But somehow they think like runaway capitalism is better, right? So you end up with this situation where, the government's guaranteeing all this shit, borrow money, spend, print more money, right? And it's just this runaway fucking train. And so, seriously speaking, like, we have nothing to look forward to, because even if the whole system was to be restructured, right? First off, all the clever people that are sociopaths, like Tim Dillon said, you know what I mean, they'll just find loopholes and ways around the shit. You know what I mean? It would require millennials and zillennials in mass and getting rid of all the racial, bullshit and everything else to vote based on class and vote based on the generation. That we're not Gen Xers and we're not boomers. And literally vote against all of those motherfuckers' interests. That's literally what it would require. I know that's a pipe dream, but that's what it would require. A complete restructuring of the system. I mean, I was just reading up on the 17th Amendment. You know what the 17th Amendment was? 17th Amendment was an amendment to the Constitution that basically was trying to, eliminate corruption. Because remember, like the 1913, you're still in the Gilded Age. And it was a restructuring where the people voted for their senators directly, because prior to that, which I wasn't aware of, the people didn't vote for their senators. I don't know who was voting for the senators, but it was like representatives were voting for the senators because, arguably, America's not a true democracy. It's a what do you want to call it? A republic, of elected officials that are supposed to do all the voting. Because the way that the system was set up was, landowners and wealthy white men were the only ones that got to vote. Right. And there's, some aspect of that. People will say, oh, it's so elitist and this, that, and the third. But no, technically speaking, it would be wise to have a society where the intelligent people are the informed people are the people who go off and vote. Like if we go and I would want like Neil deGrasse Tyson to be like the person that's in charge of like climate change or some shit like that. Like I'm confident he knows what the fuck he's talking about more than I do, right? You know what I'm saying? Like so you would want the experts to be in particular, location to particular spots. But yet we have this system where, again, corporations can come in, they can throw money around, influence this, influence that, have the society, the politicians, even though the people voted them in for one thing, they can have the politicians vote, in the interest of the corporations, because the corporations are the ones that are funding their campaigns. Right, the whole you got to understand, like it's a whole restructuring. It's not just the housing market; it's the whole political system, how people vote, term limits. I mean, gutting that bitch like crazy, making politicians able to make money through buying stocks. And then next thing you know, they're throwing around contracts and making laws and stuffing that shit in. What's that shit called? Like pork barrel or whatever where they stuff it in to like a bigger bill, these omnibus bills. You know what I mean? You're like they go and they vote on that, and then like they'll put like abortion at the top of it, and they'll be like, we voted for for women's rights. They'll put that at the top of it, but there's a whole bunch of other bullshit in there that is all about money exchanging hands that nobody really looks at. Especially when you get these bills that are like 1,000 pages or more. It's like they just stuff the shit in there. I mean, hell, that's how for you 2A people, that's how the Hughes Amendment got put in there. The Hughes Amendment was the amendment, that basically banned, or made, not banned, but basically, NFA'd like the machine guns and shit. That 1986. Go look up the Hughes Amendment. You know what I'm saying? They stuffed that shit in. It just last minute, just stuffed it in there. The whole thing is completely fucking broken. You got this. The people talking about some audio clip where there's a female politician that she's a Trump supporter, and they want her like out of the race. And then somebody came through talking about that they would give her, how can she be bought, to basically not run. They were going to throw a whole bunch of money at her, and then she was like, oh, you need to like tell somebody, and she's basically open your mouth about it. And he's like, nah, the motherfuckers will blow up my car. You know what I mean? So, again, it's just all dirty politics. And the thing is like, the reason why the old game doesn't work anymore is because everybody has information at their fingertips. Social media, all that. Like, we are the most informed and misinformed population that this nation has ever known, and that's like a real dangerous thing to the powers that be, right? And they're like, but the stupid thing is they're still doing like the same game, like they're so late to shit. They're so late to the trends. Like you got Biden, he's up there. They threw up like I don't know some $100 million to get TikTok influencers to support the Biden campaign because he wasn't doing anything for fucking young people. And the Democrats, like, they're supposed to be the party of unions and the party of the working class and everything else. They abandoned that shit so long ago. It's not even fucking funny. All of it's just lip service. You know what I mean? And then the Republicans, they get on the the religious bandwagon and the moral bandwagon, and the boomers, they love and eat that shit up, and you got a lot of young white conservatives that eat that shit up. And I really feel like the turning point really lies with white conservatives. You know what I'm saying? I don't care that a white conservative is, conservative, or a white male conservative especially is conservative. I don't care about that. But I do care about the fact that they're voting on things that will affect them or affect, obviously the millennials and the zillennials. That's how they should be voting. But instead they vote about, no, what we got to do is we got to bring the Holy Spirit back to the White House, like intangible abstractions and shit. You know what I mean? What we got to do is we got to make America great again. What the fuck does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. We got to make America great again. You know what I mean? Like these white guys that have no like positive male identity, and they're still like hanging on to like the white boomer positive male identity by a thread, thinking that somehow, they can strong arm feminists back into the kitchen, and that, they can, through the power of Christ and shame and Bible thumping, that they're going to get all these women off of OnlyFans. Again, if you ask me, the primary reason a lot of the women are on OnlyFans is because young men don't make enough money to support a family, right? Because y'all can talk about, they need to get off of OnlyFans. Okay, they get off of OnlyFans, and what do you have to offer? What do you have to offer? You're fighting and bitching about the fact that you don't make enough money to even purchase a home. So what is she getting off of OnlyFans for? Seriously speaking. And then to make matters worse, if you're fucking with the bitch, I mean, what really can you say? Because you're fucking with a bitch and she's on OnlyFans and she's the reason why you got a fucking roof over your head. I mean, talk about the ass backwards and shit. Welcome to the situation that a lot of black men, found themselves in when, they were unemployed in the fucking 80s and dealing with job discrimination and all that other shit, and resorted to selling crack cocaine in the streets in order to fucking get by. That's really the only thing that offset, like a black woman who, had a decent legal government job and shit like that. The fact that the dude was out there hustling in the fucking streets. And that's where, a lot of the respect for black men shifted, and the working man just died in the black community. I mean, just completely died. You know what I mean? Like, again, Cap always references his uncle, because his uncle, before his uncle passed away, used to say, you know what I mean? Like, because his son was out there in the streets, and he was always adamant about defending his son. His son could do no wrong. You know what I mean? But, one day, somebody was saying something about, his son, selling drugs and shit. He was like, what the fuck do you expect these young men to do? You know what I mean? These guys will make these dudes in the street will make an ass out of a working man. He's like, motherfuckers, they ain't got no fucking jobs. You know what I mean? A young man wants to have a car, a nice bitch on his arm, a nice place to stay, and none of that exists. He was talking about, because in the 80s there was a fucking recession. Reagan was busting up the fucking unions and shit. But what I see is everybody caught up on, the abstractions, the intangible shit, the shit you can't see, touch, taste, or smell. I see everybody caught up on that bullshit, the morality arguments, the who's hardworking and who's not hardworking arguments, the racist arguments. The black people, the reason why they're where they are is because they're breathing up all the white man's air, and that's why, our birth rates are down. Because black men are breathing up all the ozone, like really, like just dumb shit, Like the shit you saw with that fucking Jacksonville shooter and everything he was saying in the fucking manifesto. Even though the stupid part is he acknowledges right in there that the black family is busted up because of fucking, the socioeconomics, and that's why you got the single mothered homes and shit and how problematic that is. But he just like glosses over it and moves on. Right? Again, like I told you, a lot of white people, they look at black people like American history for African Americans started in 1985. It started with Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk. You know what I'm saying? Which I know was like earlier than that, but you get my point. Like that to them is America. Slavery is ancient Greek history. Greek history. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so long ago, right? Even though freaking I as a millennial, you know what I'm saying? Like my father was born in American apartheid. It wasn't that long ago, my guy. You know what I'm saying? I promise you that. When my father was born, there were certain places he wasn't able to go into. He would go to a restaurant and have to go around the back to get his food, shit like that. This isn't ancient Greek history, contrary to popular belief. But to me, I'm like, the system has to collapse. And the thing is like, I think it'll look kind of like the Purge. I do think that at some point there's going to be like literal physical attacks on boomers. It's just a matter of time. I'll say the timeline is probably 2025. You're going to see that shit. You're going to see literal attacks on boomers. Shit like somebody going into a freaking retirement home and shooting that bitch up. Because, you can see it online. The anger, towards boomers. You know what I mean? They run around just trying to personal responsibility it to death. Again, millennials and zillennials, like they weren't around for any of these policies. You'll see like boomers be in the comment sections on YouTube, and they'll be like, the inner city is the way that it is, because of, voting Democrat. Because they're voting a certain way, and the reason why, like, they just want to blame everything on the Democrats. I'm talking about the conservatives. Yeah, that's why, this exists. I'm like, they weren't even old enough to vote when that policy was put in place. What are you talking about? They had nothing to do with that. They didn't have the opportunity to vote. Everything was set up that exists now was set up by, the freaking the boomers and the early Gen Xers. You know what I'm saying? The people who were born, I think Gen X starts in like 1964, I think it is, 64, 65. Those folks. And it's just crazy. It's crazy to me because like you see all these white nationalists running around. The Jews will not replace us. They're running around foaming at the mouth and shit like that. We must bring back white nationalists, make America great again. All this, like, there's conservatism, and then there's like white nationalist conservatism, and then there's like biblical shit. They're doing all that shit. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, the people that are in the driver's seat look like you. And they have created a system where you can't afford to buy a home and support your family, and you are out going to work with shit wages. You know what I mean? And all they can see, this problem is black people. Look at the crime on 6 o'clock. The crime on the 6 o'clock news has nothing to do with why you can't afford a house. It's not like you're trying to buy a house in the ghetto. Hell, the crime in the ghetto caused by young black men would drive the house prices down to allow you to be able to afford it. But you don't want to live there, right? It has no impact on the house prices in the burbs. You see what I'm saying? That's where you want to live. You want to be around your people, right? But who's really preventing you from buying that house? Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. Please direct me to the black bank that you went to try to get your, fixed interest rate loan. Please direct me to the black bank that you went to. Fuck out of here. Please direct me to the HBCU that gave you a useless fucking degree, that you can't go out here and even use to be gainfully, employed. You go and, put yourself $80,000 in student loan debt and then come out and they're like, oh, here's $42,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the whole thing is fucking broken. And the thing is like, this is large. This is, as I said in my previous video, this is overwhelmingly white people's responsibility, right? Because it's yours. Don't run from it now. Don't run from it now. It was yesterday. It was white supremacy. Whites rule, blacks drool. Like that. That's what y'all were saying, right? Y'all was running shit. America is a white nation. That's all the shit y'all were talking. Okay, well, y'all were at the helm. You were in the driver's seat. This shit happened on your watch. Black people, we're just along for the ride. You know what I mean? We're just here and shit. You know what I mean? Don't sit there and try to point to black politicians, because the black politicians ain't up there serving black people's interests, because they don't get any money from black people, because black people are already disproportionately poor. And then again, what the white folks like to do is go and put a black face to white power, just like they did with all the black people sitting there being the only asshole, raising their hand, not wanting a ceasefire, raising their hand against the ceasefire, of Israel against the Palestinians. I'm like, oh, now all of a sudden it's diversity, equity, and inclusion when they want us to play the asshole position. Then they'll put all the darkies they want up there. I'm like, isn't that amazing? Isn't that just wonderful? Motherfuckers stay falling for that shit. White people love to give black people the keys to the sinking ship, and then when the ship sinks, they're like, "Oh, see, the niggas did it." Like they love to do that bullshit, and black people fall for it every fucking time, because black people with their inferiority complex always want to be seen and shit. They always want to be seen. You know what I mean? Just like with the fucking affirmative action bullshit at Harvard with the Supreme Court and everything else like that. Now you got the Asians coming out, they crying. They cry, I can't get into school because of these legacy students. We told you this shit ain't had nothing to do with black people. Black people, 9% of Harvard, and Asians are 25% of Harvard. But yet, the reason they didn't get a seat is because of the blacks. And they got suckered by white supremacy to go out there, smack down affirmative action, say it was unfair, only to still be displaced by legacy students. You ever see John F. Kennedy's fucking letter? Hold on. Let me pull it up again, because I read this shit before. This John F. Kennedy's Harvard letter. Come on. What the heck? Let's go. Where's this at? John F. Kennedy's Harvard letter. John F. Kennedy's Harvard letter. Let's see if it comes up. Here it is. This shit is retarded. This is John F. Kennedy, former president of the United States. The reason that I have for wishing to go to Harvard are several. I feel that Harvard can give me a better background and a better liberal education than any other university. I have always wanted to go there, as I have felt that it is not just another college, but is a university with something definite to offer. And this is what he wrote as his letter. Hold on, is that the whole letter? That can't be the whole letter. Hold on a second. That's the whole letter. Hold on. John F. Kennedy admission letter. Admission essay. Here we go. Okay, here we go. I have always wanted to go there, as I have felt that it is not just another college, but is the university with something definite to offer. Then, too, I would like to go to the same college as my father. To be a Harvard man, in quotes, is an inevitable distinction, and one that I sincerely hope I shall attain. April 23rd, 1935, John F. Kennedy. Meanwhile, Asians are like, oh my God, I got a 4.0. I took AP classes. You know what I mean? Like I fed starving children in Southeast Asia somewhere and I volunteered over here and motherfuckers still can't get in. But the reason they can't get in is because of less qualified niggas. That's the real problem. You know what I mean? Just this world is so fucking stupid. It is people want to, and this is the whole thing. Like, if people are going to be this stupid, if people are going to be this emotional, then it's just easy for the muhaha powers that be. Those motherfuckers. It's easy for the muhaha people to just fucking, all they got to do is just like stir the pot, agitate it, throw up some clips or show some black people trying to rob Asian people in the streets, create division, and then just go from there. Same thing with the whatever beef is going on between white people and black people. And people won't, they'll be focused right on that, and they won't focus on these motherfuckers are fucking us over. You know what I mean? These are the ones that are screwing us over. I mean, you got to look at what you can't do. I mean, that's the important shit. What you can't do. You can't purchase a car. You can't purchase a home. You can't start a family. You know what I mean? Like, again, I'll say it time and time again. Feminists can talk all they want about feminism. Feminism does not fucking work, especially as long as women want to engage in hypergamy. It is impossible for you all to want to equalize yourself to men at the same time you only want to date men that are 3, 4, 5 steps above you. Okay? Like all you're going to end up with is a society of angry, disgruntled men. And as Amos Wilson said, if you have young men and they're unemployed if they're unemployed or underemployed, and all you want to do is try to teach them manhood training programs and basically, and they're still out here without, they will cannibalize the community. It's not just about telling them what not to do or what to do. Doing the right thing has to be rewarded. And it seems like everybody wants to run around and they want to slam people talking about hard work and personal responsibility. But how often do you see people on national television slamming corporations saying, hey, motherfucker, you need to freaking reward the people that are out here busting their asses off for you? You know what I mean? Do y'all see that fucking commercial? Not a commercial. The fucking, it's like an Instagram clip where the dude worked at Burger King for 27 years and they're giving him pens and a bunch of Reese's cups and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, companies should be trying to fight that shit. Because I'm like, and then they sit around and then you got Dave Ramsey going up there, all these young people, they don't want to work. They don't want to. They can't afford rent. They can't get a car. They can't get a house. They can't motherfucking date. You know what I mean? And what else can't they do? Can't start a family. And then they're up there talking about this young whippersnappers don't want to work. I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, keep fucking around, because your ass is about to get motherfucking carjacked. It's just a matter of time. I want people to come back to this video and be like, yeah, Pete said that. When you see some fucked up shit on the news, okay? When you see the white boys get on some Allahu Akbar shit, you know what I'm saying? When they out there blowing some shit up, you know what I mean? Like I want you to come back to this video and be like, yeah, that nigga Pete, he laid that shit out. Because it's only a matter of time. Eventually people are going to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. Especially when the hope drains from people, especially when a lot of these men, hit or enter middle age. When that window for them going out there and living the lifestyles that they dreamed of, dissipates and fades, and all they're left with is anger and resentment and bitterness. Them motherfuckers, I'm saying, you go and you can go out there and you can, you fuck over some black people, and, black people, they're used to being fucked over. It's the white man system. It's racism. It's white supremacy, right? We're used to that shit. A lot of black men have adjusted to that. They've adapted, acclimated to the reality of the system of white supremacy. But again, you go and you tell white boys that shit, they will burn this motherfucker down. See, they don't take kindly to that shit. You already seen it. What happens with the white boys when you try to take everything away from them? They will kill the wife, they will kill the children, and then they will kill themselves and while the house is burning down to a cinder. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you're fucking with fire. And again, in my estimation, that's why they want all this goddamn gun control. Because you got too many, young white men that, have no prospects. And they were sold that, and that's the worst combination. You were sold an idea and a belief that was so strong, you were criticizing, everybody else that wasn't white, everybody else that wasn't you. And then you come to the realization that you're being suckered. Yeah, like I said, I know why freaking Mark Zuckerberg is over there building bunkers in Hawaii and shit. Because this motherfucker is about to goddamn implode. And then, the crazy thing is if this nation does implode, again, they don't even have enough troops, to fucking defend itself. Running around, we're 15,000 troops short. The Navy just dropped its requirements, to try to bring more people in because, again, they're the ones, bringing people, transporting people around the world. They got to go off and police a whole bunch of shit. People think that the World War III isn't a reality. Oh, please, you better believe that it is. You got the shit in Israel. You got America weaker than it's ever fucking been. You got young men, out of shape and all this other shit because they wanted to feminize the boys and make things, better for, feminists and women and shit like that, which women don't even like when it comes to, but they want to settle down and get married, right? You don't have enough fucking troops, to put these guys on the ground to do anything. They don't have the will or the desire, to fight. On top of the fact that, real talk, younger people, they don't really have any beef, with the Middle East and shit like that. They don't, which means that they'll probably try to do, some sort of Operation North Woods and shit and try to get there to be some sort of terrorist attack so that it gins up, young white boys, white supremacy again and being anti-Muslim and anti-Arab and whatnot. And that would be the dumbest thing. The dumbest thing for any Muslim nation to do right now, because I'm like, you already got the millennials and the zillennials pretty much on your side. They recognize that shit is not the fucking Israel is that's not their land. They came there during World War, II, by the boatload, took the motherfucking land, just took it over and shit like that, and they recognize what it is. And I do think that there is somewhat of a level of white consciousness, and I know that the pro-blacks are going to get mad at me for saying this, but I do think that on some level there are some white people that are like, can we please stop running around the world disrupting things and raping and pillaging, because our ancestors did that shit. Even right now, we're not even able to reap the benefits of it because of the selfishness of the fucking boomers, and then on top of that, we really don't want to pass that down on to our kids. Okay, America's got enough oil, enough fucking resources. America should be great in and of itself. Isolationism, it should be able to fucking do that to a great degree. Okay, but no, not the boomers. The boomers, they want war and they want all this other shit, even though they got a foot in the grave. I was watching some fucking John F. Kennedy Jr. I don't know anything about the dude. People are like, I do think he would be a better candidate than Biden. But, he's up there and his voice sounds like an old man. And I'm like, what is with the fucking geriatric ward when it comes to people running this goddamn country? What is with all these people that are a fucking freaking heart attack or a stroke away, when it comes to running this? What is with that? You know what I mean? And again, because obviously it's the boomers and they're going to put their boomer people in place. I think it's high time that, the young people, freaking demonstrate, their political, way, their political, will. But there's too much bullshit going on right now. You know what I mean? There's too much, again, they got motherfuckers distracted with all this other bullshit. You know what I mean? And that's not to say, because I know the white boys want to take it as an opportunity to be like, yeah, and your black people need to stop talking about reparations. No, nigga. That shit is old. All the foul shit that the system of white supremacy has done to African Americans, that shit is still owed, and those drums are still going to continue to fucking beat. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying, when it comes to, all the animosity that largely comes from your camp, because you all have this fear like you're losing power and all this other shit. I'm like, and I'm sitting there looking at it like it's the illusion of power. You don't have any power. The boomers have all the fucking power. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? And again, I know what the white boys are going to do, because they're like, oh, I'll just ride this white shit out and see where it goes. Maybe when my boomer father or my boomer grandfather dies, then maybe some of these resources will be transferred over to me. And then what? You'll just continue the system as it is? Yes, if it benefits me. I'm like, well, we don't have anything to discuss then. You're just going to do the same thing that they did, and you're going to do it to your own grandkids because you don't want to change the system. And the thing is like it may very well change, because the stupid thing of the white elite boomers is, they've already surpassed the critical mass. You know what I'm saying? See, when it's 50-50, it's hard to get anything to change. It's just like with black people in during the 50s and shit, during the, in the 60s, during the civil rights movement. Every black person felt the sting of discrimination. So it made very easy for black people from, that were more educated, and the black people from poor backgrounds to come together and form Voltron, because, they were all feeling the sting of racism and white supremacy. You see, and then, later on, the white people, again, going back to that trick baby clip, from 1973, where they're sitting at the dinner table, he's like, nah, you can't leave the smart ones in the ghetto. Howard, you have to bring them up. Otherwise, they'll become a leader amongst their people. See, they started doing that type of shit. You know what I mean? That's where you get all these, cantankerous old black folks, the Sheila Jacksons and the Clyburns and the fucking Maxine Waters and all these people that just been up there forever. They die in office, and they're not doing anything for black people, even though they were originally a part of the civil rights movement. We gave them jobs, political jobs, and so now they're well behaved and shit. We don't have to worry about the rioting and stuff. But see, when it comes to the white folks and what they've done at the collective level, there's too many white people who can't even start families or get into the housing market. That is going to facilitate a revolution unless they do something drastic, which I know that they won't, because they're too fucking selfish to do it. They're going to try to put a Band-Aid on a hemorrhaging wound. Patients on the table, they're bleeding out. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, get the Band-Aids. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they're doing right now. They're scrambling the jets. Like, get the Band-Aids, get the Band-Aids. The fuck is a Band-Aid gonna do? Bitch, you need a goddamn, you need a clamp and a fucking tourniquet. Like, the fuck are you talking about? And massive amounts of pressure. You know what I'm saying? And that's literally what they're doing. All this last minute shit, they ignore you the whole time. Oh yeah, what the fuck ever. And then in the last minute, they start scrambling the jets and start trying to make it look like they give a fuck about you. So, personally, I think it's already past the fucking breaking point. And I wish to Hotep, that white people would fucking see this shit for what it is, that it's about power and it's about classism way before it's about racism. You know what I mean? But again, you got all these white nationalists, they running around. We was Vikings and shit. They running around. They want to be Vikings. They want to, go to some Nordic, theology is some shit. They talking about, fucking, same shit in Europe and all this other stuff. And I'm like, again, they brought the white oligarchs brought the migrants in because, one, your birth rates are down, and they're down because they don't want to pay anybody. And the way that the white society and white culture is that, they bought into the whole, well, if you can't afford kids, don't have them. And that's what they're doing. But the oligarchs, they don't give a fuck about that. They're like, we need cheap labor and we need, enough people here so that we can have this illusion of a growing economy. It's no different than what the freaking Silicon Valley did with the companies and all the fluff and bullshit of this, basically this illusion of growth, hiring a bunch of, oh, look, we're hiring. Oh, give us more money, invest more money. We're hiring. We just hired 200 people. Give us more money. But we haven't turned a profit at all, ever. but we're looking like we're growing, and it's just it's like a big fat fucking hologram. It's like you have this economy. It's like you don't make anything, you don't produce anything. Shit is all made overseas. You're not selling anything abroad. And then now, and I'm saying some people argue that the economy is shifting, and now it's all about like this, like, these intellectual properties, sort of, computing abstractions, like when you're talking about AI and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, until you start plugging people in and people start living in cyberspace, which was the whole thing with the meta universe that freaking, Facebook was trying to facilitate. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, you still have to have, goods and services exchanging hands and whatnot. But again, like I said, there's no real new markets, other than, Africa. And they don't really want to build up Africa because they want to exploit Africa for its raw material resources. Right? I really feel like we're not going to see another golden age until human beings are able to leave not just this planet, leave the fucking solar system, and then be able to bring raw materials back. And then again, with that, you'll see like a Titanfall scenario where the inner colonies are fighting the outer colonies because the outer colonies are trying to break free and they want independence from the inner colonies, the inner Earth colony. You know what I mean? Like, you'll see some shit like that. Motherfuckers on, freaking Alpha Centauri and shit. It'll be like, the Rebel Alliance has now resisted the UNAC, whatever, like, some Halo type shit. The UNSC, whatever. And that's just what it, that's just, there's aspects of human nature in this, where people they're selfish. They don't give a fuck. And it's like, I always just look at aliens, when people do all this stuff about UFOs and I'm just like looking at the aliens and I'm like, they had to get past all this shit. They had to get past blowing each other up on their own planet, thermonuclear devices, and then they had to get past money and this bullshit ass medium of exchange called capitalism. They had to get past that. You know what I mean? And they're just like floating around, just exploring the universe, trying to, because I'm saying, like, if you have like that much technological advancement, like, and you got robots to do your bidding and all other type of shit, like, okay, now what's the, like, if you get the Christians running around, you got to work in order to be a good Christian and this, that, and the third. Okay, well, what happens when you're so technologically advanced that you, technically speaking, you don't have to work? You like then you finally get into the purpose of your existence is enlightenment. You know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to, freaking treat your fellow human being in a positive way because you have all the food that you need, you have all the comfort that you need, you have food and shelter and shit like that. So then, if you have all that, then what do you focus on, right? You got to focus on other things, other endeavors, I've always wanted to learn how to play the cello or some shit like that. I've always wanted to learn how to speak as many languages as humanly possible. Things like that. I wanted to explore the cosmos. Things like that, which isn't driven by money, but again, like, money's like it seems to be a part of, human civilization. It's just all of it's just, to me, it's just falling apart because and I'm saying it doesn't even have to fall apart, but it's falling apart literally because of greed. Literally because, people are like, I'm going to squeeze every last ounce of, out of this, this piece of fruit. I'm going to squeeze every last ounce out of it until there's nothing left. And then when there's nothing left, it's like, okay, well, like, what are you left with? Like, what are you left with at that point? Because then, like, when it taps out, what it's like? What it reminds me of? It's like somebody that plants seeds to grow and harvest crops, and they eat all of the food that they harvested, and they don't save any of the seeds so that the next year they can't plant any seeds. So it's like, wait a minute, I thought you grew all these crops. Yeah, we did. Yeah, but what did you do with well, we ate them all, or we threw them away. Wait, you threw away the seed? How the hell are you supposed to plant it? We didn't think that far out. Like, that's literally where Western civilization is right now. I'm like, you fucking morons. And again, I find it comical because, this is driven by, the superior race, right? The Caucasians, right? That have all the wisdom and went to Ivy League schools, right? And they know how to write literature, you know what I mean? And Shakespeare, right? They got all this shit. They got all this knowledge in their fucking head. And they can't even plan the shit out to the next fucking growing season. They just build shit up. It's like, it's like that fucking, what is that rat city or rat park or whatever, where like they had like infinite food and everything. The population just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew until like the rats just started cannibalizing each other, and the whole system just collapsed until every rat in the rat park died. Like, that's literally what I see when I look at Western civilization. And it's like, it so didn't need to be this way. I mean, I thought it would end like some other like catastrophic way or something like that. And it just and sometimes it just sucks being black because, what I mean, like, you got the, people in the background. They're like, "Shut up, nigger." You know what I mean? Like, they're not listening to me. I'm not, who the fuck am I, right? I'm just a guest in this system. My people were brought here as slaves. What the fuck do I know, right? Right? But I'm just sitting here watching their whole shit just collapse unnecessarily. It's crazy. And I got mixed feelings about it because I'm like, nah, these are the motherfuckers that enslaved us, Jim Crow, everything. Their shit needs to collapse. Their birth rate needs to fucking drop off of a fucking cliff. You know what I mean? And then once again, the blacks will rise. Woo-ha-ha-ha-ha. Right? Some shit like that, right? I should be saying that. But I know that at the end of the day, I'm on the same fucking boat that they're on. And if they go down, chances are I'm going to go down with it. And I got that conflict of interest, that tug of war, with that shit. I wish I had like, special powers or something where I could just levitate like a Super Saiyan above them all. You know what I mean? The Prince of all Saiyans, and just hover and shit and look down upon them. You know what I mean? And just watch them, suffer and fight with each other. I'm like, oh, that's on you. But unfortunately, that's not the reality. And like I said, black people need to stay vigilant. Y'all need to strap up, because I'm telling you, when their shit gets like to the point where, they get sick and tired of being sick and tired, they're going to take it and seize it as an opportunity to try to get rid of us, because they'll be blaming us for shit that we don't have anything to do with. The reason why their birth rates are down is because of the blacks. The reason why, the polar ice caps melted is because of the blacks. The reason why they can't afford a home is because of the blacks. The reason why, all these Fortune 500 companies, don't want to pay wages and give people full medical and dental and healthcare and retirement and all that other shit is because of the blacks. I'm telling you, that's what it's going to be. They're just going to be running around saying that shit. An orca died in SeaWorld because of the blacks. I stubbed my toe on the corner because of the blacks. You know what I mean? I had diarrhea yesterday because of the blacks. It's just every fucking thing. It's just, I'm telling you. And that's the real, scary part. And the chances when that shit goes down, I might be, too old to defend myself. It just depends on how far I let the shit go. Cause global capital will just move. Like, they'll just go somewhere else. They'll just go somewhere else around the world and like flee and take their money with them. Just like how like the Russian oligarchs and shit, them motherfuckers bounced. They took their billions and rolled the fuck out. The Russians that are part of the Siloviki and shit like that. Not all of them, but some of them, they rolled the fuck out. You know what I mean? They hiding out in other countries and shit like that, took their billions with them. That's what you're going to see. Larry Fink, that motherfucker will be, waking up in Dubai, all these, Jamie Dimon, he'll be in Dubai. Elon Musk will be in Dubai. Freaking Jeff Bezos will be in Dubai. Right? They're not going to be over here. And they'll, intelligently, be like, I have now found the light of Islam, and they'll be running around preaching about how Islam is the best religion and shit like that. And getting, Emirati citizenship and shit. I'm telling you, that's what you're gonna see. Because the West is just gonna be, a shell of its former self. It's just all like empty vessel, make believe playhouse. At one point in time, I thought the system like actually worked. Like I thought like it worked. Hard work gets rewarded. Put in your 30 years, you work someplace, you move up the ladder. And then people retire, they get out. You know what I mean? And then another wave of people come in, and then the hard workers, they get the most rewarded. And I thought that that would just go on in perpetuity. The concern for black people was just, hey, we was just trying to get our foot in the door and get a piece of the, American pie and live in nice neighborhoods and be comfortable and send our kids to decent schools and get an education and all that. That's all we wanted. You know what I mean? But nah, these motherfuckers are so savage. The white elites are fucking over their own freaking offspring, their own children. I mean, if you ever like actually sat down, and talked to like a boomer about like one of their kids that has failed, you know what I mean? I mean, that shit is brutal. I'm like, you're talking about your own son. You know what I mean? Now don't get it twisted. Motherfuckers go off and they do drugs and everything. I get all that. You know what I mean? Your dad making all type of money, and you were enjoying yourself in high school, and you had this and had that, and then you just like didn't do what you were supposed to do. I get a old white man being pissed off about that. You know what I mean? But when it comes to like the shit that they're doing, I'm like, you do realize you're talking about your own grandkids. You're not talking about black people anymore. You're talking about your own grandkids. And their own grandkids that are actually probably twice or three times as smarter as they are in terms of having access to information, knowing what's going on, just the whole like interconnecting web of knowledge that you get being, fortunate enough to be a part of a generation that literally grew up with supercomputers in your fucking hand. And it's like, and yes, it was the boomers and the Gen Xers that made that happen. But it kind of gets to a point where it's like, why are you guys still in the driver's seat? You know what I mean? You're not even reproducing anymore. You're not having any more kids. You're done. You're retired. Okay, step down, pass on the motherfucking torch. But nah, they don't want to do that. They're gonna fucking hold that spot until their last fucking breath. To the point where, again, since they're living longer, to the point that where young people, by the time they get on, many of them will probably be past their reproductive, age, at least, especially for the women. Again, it reminds me of what Cap said to his father. His father was thinking about retiring from General Motors, and he was like, he was thinking about retiring, and he asked Cap, he was like, what do you think about me working in the plant? And he was like, do you want me to answer you, as your son, or do you want me to answer you as a man? And he said, answer me, as my son first. And so he answered him and responded, and he was like, well, I mean, how do you feel? His dad said he felt good and that he was in good health and everything. So, he's like, well, if you're just going to keep working, and that's what you want to do, he's like, I say keep working, unless, until your health fails or whatever. And then he was like, okay, well, how about as a man? And then that's when, Captain Solo went in on him. And he was like, nah, I think you need to get the fuck out of that plant because you've been working there. You got young men out here that need motherfucking jobs and shit. You ain't done shit with the fucking job. You ain't buy a house. You over here living on your sister's fucking couch. You ain't done shit with, with what you got going on. Now, granted, that was with the caveat of, the whole tumultuous relationship between, him and his wife and, her having a kid by another man and him not wanting to be hurt anymore. So he just shut down. Which is understandable, but like at the same time, it's like, motherfucker, he shut down and he had his son out there in the world. And Cap went through a lot of bullshit because his father shut down. So, Cap was like, he wasn't having it. He let him know. Like, nah, you ain't doing shit with it. You got young men that got families out here that they need to support, and they need that type of job, and they're going to do 10 times more with that job than you've ever fucking done with it. You know what I mean? So he told his dad, as a man, you need to get the fuck on. But I mean, that's what we got going on. And when you the worst part about the boomers is like there's just no empathy. There's no understanding. There's no like, hey, I get it. You know what I mean? Like even their math is off. Like motherfuckers can't easily go and adjust for inflation. And see that like when you bought, a house, it was like, two times the annual income or whatever. Because remember, 1960, the average age to buy a house was 24 to 25 years old. That's like unheard of. Unless you the fucking dude is a drug dealer and he's going off and buying a bungalow or fixer upper, a HUD house or some shit like that. That shit is unheard of. You know what I mean? Honestly, like, that's going to be like the new thing. Young people going out here and gentrifying the fuck out of black neighborhoods and whatnot and going in. I have a clip, I'm gonna post a clip. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it was a clip of well, fuck it, I'll just say it. It was a clip of Ice-T talking about how he buys up all the properties in the fucking hood and just sits on them, and basically until, the city comes in and eminent domains it, and then buys it from him, and because of what the appraisal value is versus what he bought it for, buying, houses on short sale and all other type of fucked up shit. I gotta post that video. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. And then people sit around and wonder, oh, why the black community looks all fucked up, and you got white folks running around doing this type of shit because they got the resources to do it. It's fucked up. But anyway, I'm at 75 minutes, so I think I should end this video. Just wanted to give you all a stream of consciousness. Again, told you, can't shut my brain off. So that's my video. SWP out, or should I say Niggadamus out. Anyway, that's my video, and I'm going.